about the Browns. New Browns head coach Todd Monken's arrived in Cleveland to chat with Shedeur Sanders on his agenda. Take a listen.
How we doing, man? Good. Then we tried to draft last year. It's all worked out.
Yeah.
You remember that, right?
Yeah, that's what I was about to tell you.
Someday we'll get a chance to talk about that.
All right, so Shedeur made the most of his starts of any Brown quarterback this season, but struggled with the accuracy issues more than Dylan Gabriel and Joe Flacco. 10 interceptions, just 8 combined from the others. However, Sanders went 3-4 as the starter, while Gabriel and Flacco went a combined 2-8. All right, Monken is going to have his work cut out for him, right, with Cleveland's current quarterback situation. Mina, is Monken the right man for the job when you think about all that he's going to have to handle?
Yeah, I mean, look, truth is I don't know if he's going to be a good head coach and all that comes with it. But I can tell you 2 things. One, judging by the fit he wore in that video, this man is all about football. And 2, he knows how to call a hell of an offense. I like to mention the offense, like I'm not one to talk with fashion, but I just I want to talk about the offense for a second because I know people point to his success in Baltimore and they'll say, well, he had Lamar Jackson, no doubt. Y'all know I'm as big a fan of Lamar and his impact on defenses as anyone. But I also watched that offense really closely the last 2 years, and you guys, I'm sure, would agree it was incredibly creative. There's a reason why he got so much more out of the passing game than Greg Roman did, quite frankly. I thought in terms of using different personnel groupings, the way he used motion to crack things open for the receivers who are, it's not the best group in the league. And the play-action passing attack were all excellent. I'm excited to see what he does with Harold Fannin Jr., given his success with Andrews and likely in Baltimore. The quarterback, of course, is the huge question here, but if they are going to go young, I think it is valuable that he had recent success in college. So, again, I'm not saying this was a slam dunk hire. I don't know. But just from purely the perspective of the offense, Todd Monken is very good.
Yeah, I agree with that. Listen, it's going to be tough whoever takes over in Cleveland. This isn't a great offensive roster, especially when you get into the wide receiver room. Harold Fanning Jr., though, to me is an absolute star. Yeah. This is a guy who came out of nowhere to be a big-time player last year. And my mind starts to wonder what happens or how healthy can Quinshon Judkins be when and if he comes back next year. And so what he needs to figure out is how you can add some more playmakers to this offensive side of the football, because there is some young talent. We know one thing about him is he has creativity. He understands how to open up things in the play action, and he's coached at Georgia recently, and then obviously with Lamar Jackson and a run game that we saw in Baltimore that was able to not just utilize Derrick Henry, but we saw him with smaller running backs in the pass game and also in the run be able to create space.
Yeah, Marcus, on the defensive side, the defense has been a bright spot for the Browns. Now Jim Schwartz's future with the team is uncertain. How important is he to the identity and the success of this organization?
You speaking of Jim Schwartz importance? Boogie?
Yes.
Yeah, look, this one performance matters, right? This has been one of the better defenses. It's actually been the only sunshine in Cleveland for a long time. Have won games and kept them in games that they probably shouldn't have been in. I know Jim Schwartz's name was mentioned with potentially becoming the head coach as well. I think the relationship matters, right? And I know that this is probably going to be if he stays, it'll be, well, I could have been the head guy, but I think this is someone you would love to retain if possible, based on who he's worked with, how well they've done on that side of the unit. If they can't, they need to lean into a lot of, whoever the new defensive coordinator is, needs to lean into a lot of what they were already doing. There are obviously Myles Garrett is over there, the best defender in the NFL, but there's a lot of talent around Myles Garrett as well that we probably don't talk about enough because Myles Garrett just does so many phenomenal things on the field. But when you think about this Cleveland team, and that was my thing when Todd Monken got hired, is now it's head coaching. We know, look, Todd Monken can call plays offensively. Yeah. He has been very, very good at his job, even though I've had some problems with how he's called specific games. But overall, he's done a really good job. I think more now about Cleveland is his head coaching job and delegation and finding the right people to help this organization be better on the field.
I think delegation is important, but there's also just so much to clean up from a perception standpoint with the Cleveland Browns. The way that the young quarterbacks were handled. We've obviously heard Mr. Haslam speaking on behalf of what Andrew Berry and the coaching staffs did in the drafts. What he needs to do is make this as close-knit and tight-knit of an organization where everything is, like Mina said, all about what we do on the football field and create the right culture. Defensively, I felt like they had that, but as an entire unit, that's been lacking for the Cleveland Browns in the last couple of years.
Yeah, he said when he got the job, even he was talking about it this morning, that this was why he came back to the NFL. This was why he left Georgia, which was a really comfortable job for him. They were having a ton of success, but he wanted to be an NFL head coach, and this was the goal. This is an opportunity. I don't think he'll take it lightly, but yeah.
Boogie, you know Todd. Todd is a really good coach.
He is.
He's really relatable.
He's a great leader.
I don't think people know him beyond knowing Todd Monken and the success from an offensive coordinator. He's a relatable guy. Players love playing for him. Like there are great sentiments about him from players that have played for him. Like RC said, though, Cleveland is a juggernaut.
Different.
To try to get righted. And this is going to be a job that he's never been associated with in his life. So it's going to take a lot of work. But he has the right makings to get guys on the right track.
Starting off with the hiring of Matt Ryan, who led the searches for a new coach and GM, head coach, I should say. 1 week later, Atlanta found their man in Kevin Stefanski. Then on Thursday, the Falcons announced Ian Cunningham as their new GM. Marcus, what should be the first order of business in Atlanta now that they've got this new front office in place?
Bijan Robinson contract. That's number one, okay? And usually it's rare we talk about that before we get to the quarterback. But that should be first and foremost of how can we lock down arguably the most dynamic offensive player in the league. And then the other part is quarterback, obviously. Yeah, like we know if Michael Penix is going to be the guy, that evaluation needs to happen. And I know people are talking about Kirk Cousins and potentially him being the guy going forward. And maybe he will with Michael Penix's injury. But the quarterback position, as we talked about earlier in the show with Minnesota, is going to be the most prevalent thing. So get Bijan contract done, figure out a way to get that done, and then figure out if Michael Penix is your future or if you need to draft or be in positioning to try to get a quarterback that can carry you into the future with this new GM and head coaching situation.
I think the truth is with the quarterback position, they're probably going to have to do both because it'll be possible for them to fully evaluate Penix at this point, right, coming off of the injury. And so you want to give him a chance, but you also have to bring in some form of competition without a lot of money to spend at the position, as so many teams are in the same position. So that's something that he's going to have to do, whether that's in the draft or free agency. They're going to have to do those evaluations pretty quick. As far as the rest of the roster goes, I would also add there's a few free agents that are pretty important players. Caden Ellis, one of my favorite players to watch in the NFL, linebacker / pass rusher, is a free agent. And then they got to figure out what's going to happen with Kyle Pitts, who, you know, has had such an up and down NFL career, but has flashed enough to where you do seriously want to consider bringing him back. So it's a good roster. There's from free agents, but nothing, of course, matters more than figuring out what they're going to do at quarterback.
New on NFL Live. Let's get to this. Mike McCarthy was on Pat McAfee's show today. Spoke about keeping a winning tradition going in Pittsburgh.
It's my responsibility to show up here every day and win, and that's just the way I've always gone about it. Because this is a 12-month job that you have to, there's always something to do. There's always a video to watch. There's always a conversation to have. There's always things that, it's sort of planning and getting ready for the next day. Because at the end of the day, you're guaranteed 17 games. This is not a start over, opportunity at all. And I think that's clear. I mean, it's a football team that, in the playoffs last year. So to categorize it, it's a playoff roster.
So technically he's right. RC, do you agree that the Steelers have a playoff roster?
I mean, yeah, the Steelers have a roster that's capable of making the playoffs, but it's not one of those rosters that's a Super Bowl contender. And I think that's what's important in Pittsburgh. And so it's how many years will you just be good enough? Or is Mike McCarthy that head coach that can allow you to take that next step? And the first question has to be, who will be your quarterback? The one thing that people miss who were saying fire Mike Tomlin or we haven't had playoff success was that they never drafted early enough to get a quarterback. The reason that Ben Roethlisberger had such a successful tenure under Coach Cowher and Mike Tomlin was because they picked in the top 12 of the draft. Mike Tomlin only picked in that position one time, and they moved up to get Devin Bush. And so if Mike McCarthy is going to be a guy that's not going to settle for a rebuild, can he be the dude to allow them to take one more step than they have in the last decade and actually win a playoff game with this roster?